Good evening, friends. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever loved someone deeply, but no matter how hard you tried, it felt like they were always one step away? Like they were physically present, but emotionally miles apart? Yeah, I've been there too. You give, you love, you try to connect, and somehow it just doesn't land. That, my friends, is often the silent force of avoidant attachment. And tonight we're going to rip that silence apart, we're going to shine light on it, and we're going to do something about it. Because knowledge isn't power, applied knowledge is power. So here's my challenge to you tonight. If you're in a relationship with someone avoidant, or if you see those patterns in yourself, don't play small. Don't settle for distance when you crave closeness. Start asking better questions. Start having real conversations. Start showing up. Because at the end of the day, we were made for connection. And when we stop running from intimacy, we stop running from ourselves. Let's stop hiding. Let's start healing. Thank you. People with avoidant attachment aren't heartless. They're not cold or incapable of love. And yet, that's exactly how it can feel when you're on the receiving end. But here's the truth. Most people with avoidant tendencies aren't rejecting you, they're protecting themselves. That's a game changer once you really let it sink in. See, they've been conditioned through experiences, usually early ones, that closeness equals risk. Vulnerability meant being hurt, dismissed, or smothered. So what do? They build walls, emotional fortresses. They put on the mask of independence, of I'm fine, of I don't need anyone. But deep down, they do need connection, desperately. It just terrifies them. That protection mechanism starts early. Maybe they had caregivers who were unpredictable or too critical or emotionally unavailable themselves. Maybe they were praised for being self-reliant and punished, verbally or otherwise, for showing emotion. Over time, they learned, don't rely on anyone. Stay safe by staying distant. And as adults, that story plays out in romantic relationships. When things start to get emotionally intense, when their partner starts leaning in, they instinctively lean out. They don't even always know they're doing it. It's not calculated. It's automatic. It's a nervous system response to a perceived threat. They might ghost after a great date, pull away after a deep conversation, shut down when you open up. Suddenly they're busy, overwhelmed, or just not in the right space to talk. And if you're not aware of what's happening, it can feel incredibly personal. It can feel like rejection, like you're not enough. But it's not you. It's their old wiring trying to keep them safe. Now, here's where it gets real. This pattern doesn't mean they don't care. In fact, they may care so much that it scares the hell out of them. So they push it away. They intellectualize instead of feel. They keep things surface level to avoid the potential pain of truly opening up. And often, they don't even know they're doing it. That's why it's so important to shift from judgment to understanding, because once you see that avoidance is protection, not rejection, you stop taking it personally. And that shift right there, that's where compassion and eventually real change begin. Emotional distance isn't just a quirk or a preference, it's a slow, silent killer of connection. When someone consistently pulls away, avoids emotional depth, or shuts down in vulnerable moments, it doesn't just affect the atmosphere of the relationship, it starves it. Imagine love as a living, breathing thing. It needs nourishment. It needs time, attention, vulnerability, communication. But when one partner has avoidant tendencies, what you get instead is a pattern of withdrawal. And what starts as subtle, less eye contact, fewer conversations, shorter answers, can quickly become a full-on emotional famine. Here's what happens. One person in the relationship starts to feel the shift. They sense something is missing, so they try harder. They lean in. They ask more questions. They offer more love. And the more they give, the more the avoidant partner pulls away. This creates a dynamic where one person is constantly chasing connection and the other is instinctively protecting themselves from it. It becomes a loop, a dance of disconnection where both people are getting exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally drained. And the tragedy is neither person is wrong. The person who craves closeness is not needy. They're responding to a lack of emotional reciprocity. They're trying to bring the relationship back to life. And the avoidant partner isn't trying to hurt anyone. They're just acting on old programming that says back away before you get overwhelmed or abandoned. But when those behaviors go unacknowledged, They create confusion, resentment, and self-doubt. The partner on the receiving end starts to question themselves. Am I too much, too intense, not enough? They start editing themselves, shrinking, withholding, just to maintain whatever closeness remains. And the avoidant partner, meanwhile, feels pressured, suffocated, maybe even resentful, because to them, emotional intensity feels like danger, not love. But make no mistake, this pattern of emotional starvation doesn't just fade away, it builds. And the longer it goes on, the harder it becomes to fix. The connection suffers, trust erodes, and intimacy, true soul-level intimacy, starts to feel out of reach. And here's the kicker. Most people don't even know this is happening. They just feel stuck, disconnected, or off without understanding why. That's why awareness is everything, because until you can name what's really going on, you'll keep fighting the wrong battles. You'll think the problem is timing or stress or incompatibility, but beneath it all, it's the emotional distance, the avoidance, that's starving your relationship of the connection it desperately needs to survive. People with avoidant attachment often fear the very thing they need the most, intimacy. Not surface level closeness, not let's watch a movie together or share a bed kind of closeness. I'm talking about deep, raw, vulnerable connection, the kind that asks you to be seen without your armor on. And for someone who's learned to equate vulnerability with danger, that level of intimacy can feel absolutely terrifying. So what do? They run, they deflect, they keep things light, they bury themselves in work, hobbies, routines, anything to avoid sitting in the intensity of emotional exposure. But here's what they don't realize. Intimacy isn't the enemy. It's not a trap. It's the cure. It's the healing force that allows old wounds to surface and be soothed rather than ignored, because you can't heal what you won't touch. And emotional wounds, like physical ones, don't just vanish with time. They get buried, they get infected, and eventually they show up in our most important relationships. Avoidant individuals often think intimacy means losing control, losing independence, becoming weak. But real independency doesn't take your freedom, it expands it. It doesn't make you smaller, it gives you space to be your full self, flaws and all. When you're in a safe, supportive relationship, intimacy becomes a mirror, not one that judges you, but one that reflects your truth back to you, your fears, your desires, your wounds, and your worth. And here's the breakthrough moment when someone finally allows themselves to drop the guard, to lean in instead of pulling back. They often discover that connection isn't as dangerous as they feared. It's liberating. It's where love actually lives, not in control, not in perfection, but in shared vulnerability. The problem is most people with avoidant patterns never give themselves the chance to feel this. They tap out too early. The moment connection starts to deepen, alarms go off in their mind. Too much, too fast, too close. So they withdraw before they can experience the healing power of being truly known and still fully accepted. But real love, real growth, real transformation, it all begins where fear meets truth, where discomfort meets courage. That's the edge we're called to lean into. Because behind every avoidant response is a human being who craves closeness. And the way forward is not through retreat. It's through intimacy. Messy, beautiful, brave intimacy. The kind that doesn't break you, but finally sets you free. When you're in a relationship with someone who has avoidant attachment tendencies, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, if I just explain how I feel better, if I just love them harder, maybe then they'll open up. But here's the raw truth. You cannot force someone to be emotionally available. You can't crack someone open with logic or pressure. Emotional openness can't be demanded. It has to be inspired. And the most powerful way to inspire it isn't by pushing harder. It's by modeling it. You lead the way by becoming what you want to receive. That means showing up with honesty, with courage, with emotional vulnerability. It means speaking your truth even when your voice shakes, not from a place of drama or blame, but from grounded self-awareness, because when you express yourself authentically without trying to manipulate the outcome, you create an environment where real connection becomes possible. It's an invitation, not a command. Avoidant partners often don't know how to handle deep emotions, not because they don't care, but because no one ever showed them how. So when you bring grounded vulnerability into the space, when you talk about your own experiences, your feelings, your needs, without guilt tripping or attacking, you begin to shift the energy of the relationship. You stop participating in the same emotional loop, and you start creating a new pattern. But here's what's critical. Leading with openness doesn't mean you abandon yourself. This is not about overgiving or over-explaining or carrying the emotional weight for two people. This is where boundaries come in. They are not walls. They're clarity. They say, this is who I am. This is how I love, and this is what I need to feel safe and connected. When you model healthy openness and healthy boundaries, you show the avoidant partner a different way of relating. You show them that emotional closeness doesn't mean being consumed, that needing connection doesn't mean being weak, that saying, I feel isn't a threat. It's an act of intimacy. You create a space where love can breathe, where there's room to move, to feel, to grow. Sometimes they'll rise to meet you. Sometimes they won't. But either way, you stay rooted in your truth, you stop shrinking to protect their comfort, and you start expanding to honor your own. Because real love doesn't demand self-abandonment, it calls for self-leadership. And when you lead by example, you don't just invite change, you become the change. Healing avoidant attachment isn't just possible, it's powerful. But here's the truth, it doesn't begin with your partner. It doesn't begin with reading another book, watching another video, or pointing the finger at someone else's behavior. Healing starts with awareness, not surface level awareness. Radical, honest, sometimes uncomfortable awareness of your own patterns, your triggers, your emotional responses, and the stories you've been telling yourself for years. Because avoidant attachment doesn't just show up randomly. It's a survival mechanism. It was created in response to something. Neglect, inconsistency, criticism, abandonment, enmeshment. Somewhere along the way, closeness stopped feeling safe, so distance became the strategy. Independence became the armor. Emotional self-reliance became the badge of honor. And while that may have worked once, it's not working anymore. Not if what you want is real, lasting connection. The first step in healing is noticing your patterns without shame. When you pull away after someone expresses love, pause. When you feel irritated by someone wanting to get closer, get curious. When someone asks how you feel and you go blank, don't judge it, just observe. That awareness is gold. It's the beginning of rewiring. Because until you see the pattern, you are the pattern. You're living inside it without realizing it's optional. And if you're with someone who has avoidant patterns, your awareness matters just as much. Are you chasing them to avoid sitting with your own loneliness? Are you constantly trying to prove your worth to someone who won't let you in? Are you abandoning your own emotional needs just to keep the peace? These are the moments where your power is either lost or reclaimed. The beauty is, once you become aware, truly aware, you have choice. You can pause, you can breathe, you can respond differently. You can ask for what you need without begging. You can lean into discomfort instead of avoiding it. And each time you do, you're not just healing a relationship, you're healing a part of you that has been waiting to be seen, heard, and honored for a long time. Awareness is the key that unlocks the entire system. It turns confusion into clarity, reactivity into responsibility, fear into forward motion. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be awake. Because once you're awake, you stop repeating the past and you start rewriting it. One moment, one decision, one conversation at a time. That's how transformation begins. That's how healing becomes real. So what does all of this mean for you right now in this moment? It means that if you've been caught in the painful cycle of avoidant attachment, whether it's your own pattern or your partner's, you're not broken. You're not doomed. You're simply operating from a blueprint that once protected you but no longer serves the life and love you truly want. And the moment you recognize that, the moment you stop blaming and start owning, the entire game changes. Healing is never about blame. It's about responsibility. It's about becoming conscious of the unconscious choices that have kept you locked in a loop of emotional distance and disconnection. Avoidant attachment isn't a life sentence. It's a signal. It's the nervous system saying this feels unsafe. And instead of forcing that part of you to disappear, you get to bring compassion to it. You get to listen, understand, and slowly teach yourself a new way of relating. That's the power of healing. You're not just patching wounds, you're rewriting your emotional operating system. But it's a process. It takes self-awareness, communication, boundaries, and most of all, courage. Courage to show up when you want to shut down. Courage to speak your truth even when it feels like no one's listening. Courage to stay open to love even when every part of you wants to run. And for those of you loving someone with avoidant patterns, I see you. I know how lonely it can feel, how confusing, but let me tell you this. Your worth is not dependent on someone else's capacity to receive you. You are not too much. You are not too needy. You are a human being craving connection, which is one of the most natural things in the world. Don't shrink to fit into someone's emotional limitations. Love them, yes. Hold space, yes. But never abandon yourself in the process. Real connection happens when both people feel safe enough to show up fully, not when one person does all the emotional heavy lifting. There is no magic switch to fix avoidant attachment, but there is a path forward. It's the path of awareness, openness, and choice. Every conversation, every trigger, every moment of tension is an opportunity to break the cycle, to respond with consciousness, to rewrite your story. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be willing to look inward, willing to feel, willing to grow. Because the love you're searching for out there, it starts in here with how you show up for yourself, how you speak your truth, how you set your standards. So as you walk away from this moment, I want you to remember this. Real love is possible. Deep, fulfilling, soul-level connection. It's not just something you read about in books or watch in movies. It's something you create through awareness, intention, and courage. The old patterns don't define you. The past doesn't own your future. You get to choose what comes next. You get to become the version of you that no longer fears intimacy but welcomes it, that no longer runs from love but rises with it. And that shift, that powerful, beautiful shift, starts today. Thank you for giving your time, your heart, and your attention to this message. Whether this resonated with something you're personally experiencing or simply opened your eyes to a deeper understanding of yourself or someone you love, know this: awareness is the first step, and you just took it. That matters. You matter. If this message sparked something in you, share it, pass it on. Let's break cycles together. Let's bring more consciousness, more love, and more healing into our relationships, one conversation at a time. From my heart to yours, thank you for being here. Stay open, stay brave, and most of all, stay true to you. Until next time, goodbye and take care.